this update, which kind of infuriates me about the Uhuru trial, the Uhuru 3. These are Americans in America trying to exercise their free speech, and they're on trial for being Russian agents. The verdict has just come down, and they were found guilty of conspiracy, but not guilty of acting as Russian agents. Which I don't quite get how you could have one without the other, because weren't they indicted of having a conspiracy to be Russian agents? The Uhurus said their support of Russia was free speech, which it was. Federal jury said it was a crime. After a week-long trial that touched on complicated issues, they're not that complicated, national security, foreign relations. They love to do that whenever they're prosecuting someone for something they shouldn't be prosecuted for. It's so complicated. I can't get my brain to work on the things. And so I guess the answer, if it hurts my brain, is just to lock them in prison for a long time. It's kind of like they say, what's going on in Gaza is it's complicated. Oh, my brain hurts on figuring out Gaza, Israel, so I guess we just commit genocide. I guess that's the way to go, because my brain hurts. It's the dumbest. Don't ever use the word complicated, you assholes. A panel on eight men and 4 women. By the way, I will also get to the point that they managed to get the only black juror off the jury. So this is all white, finding against a black movement. The jury found the group not guilty of more serious charge of active agents of a foreign government. I don't quite understand how you could have a conspiracy but not to do the thing they're accusing you of. But let me bring you some more. Just the other day, I brought to you how insane this trial is. Literally, they are putting up experts who know nothing about the trial. Anyway, here's some more information about what just went on in the trial. This is how they got the only black juror removed. Now, the prosecution got kind of lucky in that the only black juror on the jury, he was running late. He or she was running late. And the judge said that if the juror was absent for 30 more minutes, then she would be removed from the jury. The attorney raised the fact that the missing juror was the only African on the jury. He asked the judge to replace her with the sole African, I think they mean African American, but they're probably not using that term intentionally. Anyway, sole African juror in the pool of alternates who had been seated in the jury box throughout the trial. So, as you know, in a jury, there's 12 main ones, and then there are alternates. The alternates don't vote in what ultimately happens unless they replace someone who gets taken out. Now, if the only African American is pulled out of the jury, it would make sense to have at least one on the goddamn jury when it's a trial about whether black people, I mean, I think one of them is not black, but this is largely an African-American group. And on top of that, it's called the African People's Socialist Party or whatever. I always get it wrong, but it would make sense to have one black person on the jury. Wouldn't that seem kind of fair? But the judge refused and put a white juror in that spot. So you ended up with a 12-person white jury deciding this case. But here is a fun moment in the trial. They were talking to the lead investigator and the FBI's star witness. That's who they're grilling, is the FBI investigator, lead investigator. The Uhuru 3 attorney says, do you have any evidence of Russian interference in the 2017 St. Petersburg, Florida mayoral campaign of Jesse Neville? So Jesse Neville's one of the Uhuru 3. He ran for mayor in St. Petersburg, Florida. He did not win, but they claimed in the indictment that Russia was basically running his campaign, like trying to get him to win. Because, Russia's really concerned about what goes on in St. Petersburg, Florida. I mean, it's so insane on its face. It's like, why the fuck would Russia care what happens for the mayor of St. Petersburg? What is he gonna, everybody has to drink vodka, mandate coming down in St. Petersburg. Everybody's got, I don't care how hot it is, everybody's got to wear furry hats. New mandate in St. Petersburg. Why would Russia care? It's so dumb. So dumb. But anyway, the attorney asked the star witness, the lead investigator, do you have any evidence of Russian interference in that mayoral campaign? FBI man says, no. Okay. Uhuru 3 attorney says, why was the accusation included in the indictment? Good question. FBI man says, I didn't write the indictment. Uhuru 3 attorney says, when you were in discussions with the DOJ about the indictments, you were aware that there was no evidence of Russian interference in Jesse Neville's electoral campaign. FBI man, yes, I was aware of that. Uhuru 3 attorney. So a press release was issued saying that the Russian government was interfering in U.S. elections through Jesse Neville's campaign while you knew there was absolutely no evidence of that. FBI man, yes. We allowed these indictments to come down while I knew there was zero evidence of that. And he admitted this on the stand. And then they still get convicted of conspiracy. But they didn't get convicted of being Russian agents, just conspiracy. Uhuru 3 attorney Aid Griffin presented documents and videos demonstrating the consistency of the views and the work of the African People's Socialist Party spanning over 50 years. They've had the same views for 50 years. And yet, suddenly, Russia must be telling them to say these things. Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like the accusations against me when Russia must be directing you. That's interesting because I've had these same views and been doing the same shit online. You can go watch it. I looked a little more young and a young whippersnapper back then, but you can go watch stuff from 12, 15 years ago, me saying the same shit. The DOJ prosecutors repeated their baseless accusations that the Uhuru 3 have been secret agents in the Russian government conspiracy to sow discord and interfere in the elections. Again, how is it they found them guilty of conspiracy without guilty of the Russian agent part? Because then it's a conspiracy to what? Like, they don't both have to come together? They show the jurors diagrams to illustrate their story. They reviewed the same email and WhatsApp communication shown earlier in the trial and painted a picture of Russian interference reminiscent of the Cold War. In her closing argument, Attorney Griffin accused the DOJ and FBI of being the only conspirators in the room, having conducted criminal activity by holding a press conference and issuing an indictment that accused Jesse Neville of inviting Russian interference in his mayoral campaign, and then yesterday admitting they knew they had no evidence whatsoever to back it up. And yet these folks were just convicted of conspiracy, but not acting as Russian agents. Isn't this a little like someone when they try and convict someone of resisting arrest, but they admit they had no reason to arrest them? Well, he was resisting arrest. Well, why were you arresting him? Well, because he was standing there. Well, so what were you charging him with? What was your suspicion? Well, he was resisting arrest. But why were you arresting him? Well, because he was resisting arrest. That's why I was arresting him. It's because he was resisting arrest. This seems very similar to say, oh, we can't prove they're Russian agents, but there was a conspiracy to be Russian agents, but no, there was no acting as Russian agents. The fuck? Anyway, I don't know. I guess we'll hear soon what kind of sentence these activists are given. This is just a crushing for free speech in America. That's what this is. Just absolute destruction of free speech.